Certainly. We can get started. All right, we'll start this session. Huh? So, I'll be talking about cancer biology and treatments. Since we are dealing with, of course, it's nothing to do with virology, but immunology. So I thought there is a little bit of connection with our theme because cancer, it's been there for centuries together. I don't know. Maybe there is a kind of like a record of even 2000 years ago, people did notice this and all those things. So it's relevant in the sense that the disease is there, prevalent and everywhere. So when you're talking about the cell first, or cancer, that this thing is the basic unit. It makes you or breaks you. That's what it is. So if maybe people say that supercomputer is the most sophisticated thing ever been invented, but that's not. This is the one. Because it has the kind of like capacity to drive you for 60 years minimum. If everything is fine, you can go on for a while. But of course, the cell is the basic unit of life. The important thing is that it's mechanistic in function, basically, but with the life infused. That's the major difference, okay? With any mechanical device and this one, okay? So cell is the most basic unit of any life, starting from unicellular to kind of like multicellular. Virus is different story. As long as they are outside, they are dead. For them to be live, like somewhere they have to live, host, okay? But this is the basic unit of life, and it takes care most of the basic functions of life, okay? Talking about the cell, that's the basic unit. It forms into a tissue. Cells forms tissue, okay? Then that again come together and form a organ, okay? So different, all organs are made multicellular with having a body and yes, performs all biological functions and all those things, okay? So then comes what is cancer. It's not kind of like something out of the place. It actually comes from the cells. So the normal cells, actually they do not live forever. They keep being replaced. So what you were 10 years ago is completely different. That means completely kind of like replaced by new cells, okay? But retaining intact physical. So they divide number of divisions. They function in the form of tissue or organs and they die. That's the regular process, okay? That's very regular process. So that's what it is. And then when it comes to the cancer, that they somehow acquire, get the ability to divide. I cannot say infinite number of divisions, but a lot of divisions they can undergo. That means they are more or less like kind of like immortal. But in actual physiology, they will not live forever, but they do live for enough amount of time that they multiply enough number of times to form large chunk of tissue, okay? So that is the major difference between normal cell and cancer cell. The aggressive cell division of many number of times, if not infinite number of. So because of that, you form a tissue, chunk of tissue, which is not warranted because After certain years, you don't grow any longer. Maybe you fluctuate between like kind of like weight and all those things, but you cannot go height and weight or something like that, right? Of course, if you grow 200 pounds or 300 pounds, that's considered to be abnormal. But average human being will be fluctuating between certain amount of weight, okay? So, but here, the cell, if checked to form any amount of tissue, okay? So that's the major difference between cancer cells and normal cells, okay? So the tumor, it's basically mass of cells. In the tumor, there are certain categories like benign and malignant. Benign is the one, that means definitely it forms a chunk of tissue, but it may not do anything. It may not cause any kind of like severe inconvenience for regular normal body functions, okay? Or basically, if you find that, you can basically surgically cut it out, remove it, okay? And that's it. It doesn't cause any inconvenience or something like that. But when you're talking about malignant, then one should worry about it. It's called kind of like it becomes dangerous, okay? So when you say malignant, then that malignant tumor or chunk of tissue have cells, tumor cells or cancer cells, which wherever they are formed, whichever organ that they are being formed originally, they detach from that. They get into the bloodstream. Okay, somehow they get detached from that place, get into the bloodstream, use that bloodstream as a highway to go to several places. That means several organs. That means it's a random thing. Wherever that blood goes, if it happens to be in that, it will flow to all the possible organs or something. So whenever they find suitable place, it's called the seed and soil hypothesis. That means when the seed finds suitable soil, that means suitable organ.
So you mentioned that for benign, if you surgically remove it, it's completely gone. So is there
The
100%
outgrowth
sure
might, that's what, the outgrowth might come again, possibly, but it may not cause anything, or it may not grow at all. You can remove it.
so it's completely gone?
Sort of, yes.
So there won't be any chance of the same cancer occurring again?
It might be possible, it might occur, but the original first time, whatever it happened, it may not cause anything.
Okay,
It can be surgically removed, and probably you feel you can consider yourself being safe, or patient can be considered himself safe after removal or something. But when it's a benign, that means kind of, or malignant, not benign, malignant, then this phenomena happens. That like cells detach from that place, goes around the bloodstream, and wherever they find suitable organs, soil, then they start growing again. That means basically colonizing. Okay, they go to that other far off place, far off organ, then colonize, and they form tissue there. So it's basically that like they travel all around the place, wherever they find, they again start growing. But they also retain their original character. That means from where they originated. You can identify that. The other places that this cancer cell would have originated from the other place. That means maybe breast cancer means it's a breast cancer origin if you find it in the liver, okay, something like that. So basically that they grow around with the places to the organs, they colonize them, and then they grow further. So that's the problematic. Why it's problematic? Because they don't do anything. They do not kill you instantly or anybody patient. It takes over a long period of time, sometimes, okay? Few years together. So whatever that you are feeling you're fine, we don't know. But after 4 years or 5 years, suddenly something kind of like you feel inconvenient. Then you go for biopsy or some other things, then you may kind of like get diagnosed that you might be having this kind of thing. And all. So that's what it happens. The process is called metastasis. So whenever somebody is talking about cancer, somebody is having about at all, if they're not talking about metastasis, then fine, no problem. You need not worry about it. But if they say that like metastasis and stage 1, stage 2, or stage 3, or stage 4, there are different stages of cancer. Stage 1 is considered to be relatively manageable. I cannot say it's safe. It's manageable. That means as long as you detect it early, no problem, no worry. No problem means kind of like you can manage it in better way. You can extend the life for several years. But if you detect it later or something, say for example, anything after stage 2, stage 4 is forget it, kind of like you cannot do anything. Very minimal number of infection intensive or treatments or therapies or what it is, but still through that you can still manage it. Okay, so that's what about metastasis. That means maybe it originates in somewhere in breast, but it can go to lungs, it can go to liver, it can go to any other place, even bones, or finally it will be the brain, or sometimes it can go to the brain also immediately or later something. So what are the causes of cancer? That's the main problem with that. Like for most of the time, like Dr. Papi talked about, most of the viruses or diseases, causative agent is known. Why that disease comes. You know that definitely this virus causes that disease. So it's easy if you know that what is causing it, then to find intervention. But that's not the same case here. You don't know. People do think that like we know tons of information about the cancer, but yet it's the tip of the iceberg. That means you don't know much what's happening beneath or something. That's the problem. But despite that, like they suggest all these things, kind of like the genetic material accumulates mutations over the period of time that somehow confers potential for the cells to divide indefinitely. Okay, the mutations act as drivers for the cell to lose control over cell division. Okay, this makes cells to get the ability to multiply in uncontrolled and form a tumor. Then also some lifestyle factors. It's been clearly shown that smoking, drinking, or some of them are kind of like high risk factors for getting cancer. Okay, it's been statistically proven. So there is a kind of like very nice, any even layman or people who doesn't have any idea about the cancer also can understand this paper. That's it's so beautifully written. These two are the, especially this guy Weinberg, is the pioneer in this field, cancer research. He works in MIT Harvard. Okay, so he wrote one review in the start of early 2000, that means year 2000 January. Okay, so the hallmarks of cancer. So what are the main features of the cancer? So these 6 are the main features of the cancer. That means they get to keep signaling. They themselves keep signaling themselves to proliferate. Okay, and evading growth suppressor. That means normal cells are instructed. You divide for a certain amount of time, then stop. They're being given instructed. But somehow these will not undergo that instruction. They will not obey it. Okay? Then activating invasion and metastasis. That means not all the cancer cells, as I said, some of them are benign, but some of them are kind of like malignant. In the case of malignant cancers, they have this ability of invading other organs and causing metastasis. That means growing there. Okay? Then enabling replicative immortality. That means they have infinite amount of or number of times to replicate their DNA, because DNA replication is the first starting preliminary or basic step. That's the basis for life actually, because the cells to divide means the DNA has to be doubled. Okay, without DNA replication there is no cell division. There is no cell division means there is no organ. Organ means no entity. Okay, living entity. Okay, so they somehow acquire replicative immortality. Then inducing angiogenesis. Angiogenesis is nothing but growing blood vessels, new blood vessels. Okay, because these are chunk of tissue, they actively require food for them to sustain. Okay, so that is the problem, because they are actively growing. They require all the amount of food available in it. That means I'm talking in very layman terms. That means nutrients. Okay, so whatever food that you take in, they take it. Starving other organs or the cells that are being present in normal. That means it's a basically cascading effect, because they take the entire amount of nutrition or food, they sustain themselves and they grow very nicely, depriving or starving other normal cells. So if other cells are not getting food or enough nutrients, the organs will not function. See, the organs are not will function means normal body functions will not be taken care. So it's basically multiple organ failure at the end of the day. Okay, that's what it kills. Actually, sometimes cancer is not the cause of death. It's the because of like non-functioning of the organs that leads to the death. Okay. Then resisting cell death. As I said that like they have a replicative or immortality. Normal cells are instructed to die after a certain amount of time. That we call programmed cell death or apoptosis. Okay, all normal cells. Okay, they are condemned to die after a certain amount of functioning, certain amount of time. Okay, but somehow they evade that. That means they avoid that process. Okay, so in that sense, the cancer cells are kind of like it appears although normal, but somehow they kind of like choke the other normal cells. That's what actually causes death at the end of the day. So it's good news is that it's a predominantly old days because as long as we are young, having active intact immune system, cancer or cancer cells are being taken care of. That's the theory that goes on like because whenever there is an active intact immune system, all the components of immune system are working fine, it will take care of most of the diseases, but also even cancer. Okay, that's why kind of like it's a predominantly old age disease. That means most of the kind of cancers are old age. That means they come after 50 years, 60 years or 70 years or something. It doesn't mean that like people don't get in the early. Even some of the breast cancers are very early. That means 30 plus or 34, 35. Even there are blood cancers, some of them even young kids get. Okay, but predominantly most of them are old age. That means they come in the old age. So that's one good thing about it. It's actually anticipated or expected or calculated that during lifetime, 1 in 10% can has the ability or probability of the getting cancer. Okay, so even kind of like it's the cancer is proposed to be a kind of like one school of thought is that it's a natural check or balance to control population number or inbuilt evolutionary mechanism. It's one way of checking the population growth or something, but I don't know. But there is a that school of thought or something that kind of like why it happens, why it comes. Okay. Then also, is it a new species? That means it's a slowly evolving new species that might lead to the another species or something. But of course, it's just kind of like a school of thought or thinking, but not definitive experimental proof or something like that. As long as it's happening or happened or something, it's not a problem. You can out surgically remove it and manage it. Only problem is that when you talk about metastasis, that's the dreaded word for any cancer patients to hear. That means that's the word that you don't want to hear or come across. So most of the body parts, nothing is immune from cancer. That means almost all the body parts can get the cancer except one. Okay, I never did come across anything like cardiac cancer. No. So, but most of the parts, even bone cancer, bones, blood, everything. Blood has so many types of cancers, so many blood type of blood cancers. Okay, and any part of the body, bone marrow, stomach, veins, pancreatic, urinary bladder, intestine, you name it, there are reported. Okay, so most of the organs can get cancer. Okay. And there are two types of cancers. One is liquid and another is solid. It's just based on that, like liquid cancers are, most of them are blood cancers. That means lymphatic systems or blood cancers are being called as, considered to be liquid cancers. And most of the organs, solid organs like liver, kidney, bone, anything, those are called breast, those are called solid cancers. That means they definitely form chunk of tissue. Does the other animals get cancer? It's only unique to the humans, or no, no, no. Animals do get cancer. It's not that like with only it's a gift to humans. It's not. Many animals also, because we do use rodents or mice as a models. That means they do get cancer. They also replicate some of the same physical pathophysiology of the cancer that we get. That's why they are being used as a model system. Okay. Yeah, even mice and dogs. Dogs is considered to be the closest animal that you can study cancer that more closely mimics or replicates the pathophysiology of the cancer that we get. But it's very difficult to study. Not difficult, because it's very difficult to maintain such a huge animal as a model to study the cancer. So these cancers are most prominently being done in dogs or other things to do clinical trials, all those things. So that how, yeah.
So why dogs and
Mice is kind of like mimics, but it's also kind of like mice is kind of like having the very limited amount of time span, which may not truly reflects the pathology that we get or the pathological features that we get. So it may not physiologically actually represents the cancer that we do get. But however, to study the basics of the cancer, that was the workhorse or kind of like mice. It was heavily used. Most of the like information that we got it from mice. Because of that, the cancer is replicated there and then studied. Most of the genes, oncogenes, all of them are being studied there in mice. Okay, and it's also kind of like most of the oncogenes or cancer genes are also being present in the mice as well. But when it comes to the true pathophysiology, then it may not be the kind of like a correct system. Okay, but still you can get basic information about the cancer by replicating it in mice and studying the cancer there. So these are the most common cancers that are predominant around the globe. The most common types of cancers in India are breast cancer, cervical, and oral cancers, because oral cancer and this one, these are kind of like people do take so many kind of like abusive material that causes oral cancer. Cervical cancer also shown to be prominent, and breast cancer also seems to be prominent in Indian women as well. It depends.